Successful propaganda can use many different influence tactics, but maximum influence is attained when four major stratagems are accomplished. According to Anthony Pratkanis and Elliot Aronson in The Age of Propaganda, the Everyday Use and Abuse of Persuasion, the first major stratagem is to pre-persuade your audience. Pre-persuasion establishes what everyone knows and what everyone takes for granted. The second stratagem is to establish a favorable image of the messenger in the eyes of the audience. The communicator needs to appear likable or authoritative or trustworthy or possessed of any other attribute that would facilitate persuasion. The third stratagem is to construct and deliver a message that focuses the target's attention and thoughts on exactly what the communicator wants them to think about. For example, by distracting the targets from arguing against the proposal, or by focusing targets' attention on a vivid and powerful image, or even by inducing the targets to persuade themselves. Finally, the fourth major stratagem is to arouse an emotion and then offer the target a way of responding to that emotion that just happens to be the desired course of action. In such situations, the target becomes preoccupied with dealing with the emotions, complying with the request in hopes of escaping a negative emotion or maintaining a positive one. Labels are often used by the propagandist to pre-persuade by defining an object or event in a way that the target accepts our definition of the situation. For example, a beef company that labels their product 75% lean versus 25% fat. Propagandists often use positive words or glittering generalities. For example, Donald Trump's campaign slogan, "Make America Great Again," or Obama's "Hope and Change" are glittering generalities meant to associate the superlatives with the candidate. The slogans are short, catchy, repeated ad nauseum, and printed everywhere, brainwashing style. Propagandists go beyond positive words and clever phrasing. If they need a fact to support an argument, but no such fact exists, they can use a factoid. A factoid is an assertion of fact that is not backed up by any evidence. Factoids, or lies, are extremely persuasive. Pratkanis and Aronson identified 3 reasons for their success. First, most people do not take the time to verify the truth of the factoid. Many times we hear these factoids from trusted friends and family who also didn't take the time to verify the validity of the information. We watch the news and take the information at face value. Most people are not watching the news and verifying the presented information. Even when we do try to verify a factoid, it is difficult because the factoid often relies on secret information or secret conspiracies. Second, we believe factoids because they often meet a psychological need. Many factoids are entertaining or help our self-esteem by tearing down another or showing others that we possess secret information. These factoids can help us to justify worries and fears. Third, factoids are a form of pre-persuasion. They direct our attention and influence our understanding of the world. Moving on from pre-persuasion, let's examine the role of the communicator in successful propaganda. The more credibility the communicator possesses, the more likely the audience will believe the message. Credibility can be established by appearance, but it can also be established by credentials. If a doctor tells you that you should take a particular pill for an ailment, it carries much more weight than a non-doctor. We believe people who are experts and trustworthy. People use the credibility of the communicator to help determine whether to accept or reject a message. It does make sense to believe a credible source, but trust in the messenger can lead to less scrutiny of the message, and the skilled propagandist will use this to his advantage. Pratkanis and Aronson wrote, "It is easier to feign credibility than to actually achieve it." This manufactured credibility increases the likelihood that the targeted people will receive these messages from the communicator and label them as true without serious analysis. We've been pre-persuaded with labels, factoids, and outright lies. The communicator is brimming with manufactured credibility. We're primed for the message and the delivery. Communicators who are more confident and self-assured are more persuasive. A persuasive communicator will have an authoritative tone, not make very many speech errors, and have good posture. Paradoxically, an honest person won't be completely confident in a particular argument. The honest, thoughtful person will be forthright about the shortcomings of his argument. The honest person will be open to new information. The dishonest person will act 100% certain that he is correct, and he will be more persuasive. Messages are more persuasive in a pretty package. the fancy bottle of olive oil targeted to the home chef, or the colorful box of cereal aimed at children. Packaging matters. People can also be packaged. Research has shown that pretty people are thought to be more successful, nicer, more moral, and more caring than less attractive people. Pretty people are simply more persuasive. An attractive communicator is a great way to enhance the delivery of the message. Messages are often crafted with appropriate symbols and buzzwords to communicate to the audience that the message is true and valuable. Think of the politician with an American flag on his lapel. Researchers conducted a series of experiments illustrating the effectiveness of self-imaging in selling consumer products. In one of their studies, salespersons went door to door selling subscriptions to cable television. Some of the potential customers were informed of the advantages of cable TV. For example, it's cheaper and it involves less hassle than going to a movie. Others were asked to take a moment and imagine how they would use and enjoy each benefit of cable television. The results showed that 19.5% of those merely receiving the information about cable television subscribed to the service, whereas 47.4% subscribed after they had been asked to imagine using the service. Pratkanis and Aronson described the vivid appeal as a message that is emotionally interesting, concrete, image-provoking, and immediate in that it discusses issues of personal importance to the audience. In addition, repetition is proven to be effective as an influencing technique. Robert Zajonc of the University of Michigan demonstrated in a laboratory that the more exposures a person has to an item, the more attractive the item is. Gustave Le Bon, in The Crowd, summed up the effectiveness of the vivid appeal coupled with repetition. He wrote, "Given to the exaggeration in its feelings, a crowd is only impressed by excessive sentiments. An orator wishing to move a crowd must make an abusive use of violent affirmations. To exaggerate, to affirm, to resort to repetitions, and never attempt to prove anything by reasoning are methods of argument well known to speakers at public meetings." Adolf Hitler used Le Bon's work extensively while crafting the propaganda of the Nazi Party. Notice the similarities in the following statement by Joseph Goebbels, the head of the Nazi propaganda ministry. "The rank and file are usually much more primitive than we imagine. Propaganda must, therefore, always be essentially simple and repetitious. In the long run, only he will achieve basic results in influencing public opinion who is able to reduce problems to the simplest terms and who has the courage to keep forever repeating them in this simplified form despite the objections of intellectuals." There was an episode of South Park where Chef was in court against capitalist records. He was suing the record company for using his song Stinky Britches. During the closing arguments of the trial, his lawyer, a Johnny Cochran knockoff, simply showed the jury a picture of Chewbacca and told them, "It does not make sense." Then he pulled a stuffed monkey from his pocket and shook it at the jury, saying, "Look at the monkey, look at the monkey." One of the jurors' heads exploded, and Chef won the case. The South Park creators understood what propagandists have been getting away with for thousands of years. When a message is weak or inaccurate, you just have to distract them. When confronted with an argument that runs contrary to our beliefs, we will immediately raise objections and counter-arguments. Distraction is often used in the form of a song, an irrelevant picture, a love scene, artwork, or anything else to divert attention. Advertiser David Ogilvy doesn't agree with this approach. He prefers compelling arguments. This makes sense if you have a compelling argument. If you don't, look at the monkey. We've pre-persuaded, built or manufactured credibility in our communicator, and delivered a vivid, appealing message. The slam dunk of propaganda includes one final stratagem, the most important in my opinion, emotional appeal. The appeal to fear has been used with great success throughout history to influence and motivate actions beneficial to the propagandist and contrary to the best interests of the individual. Hitler used fear of the Jew and the communist to propel a nation to war. The Bush administration, followed by the Obama administration, used the fear of terrorism to embark on an endless war against a faceless enemy. Fear appeals are effective because they divert our attention from careful examination of the issue to the fear itself, specifically ridding ourselves of the fear. Scientific evidence supports the effectiveness of fear appeals. Consider the experiments directed by Darius Delinsky and Richard Naurat. In their research, they aroused fear by blowing a police whistle as a pedestrian jaywalked, or by placing a piece of paper that resembled a ticket used to administer fines on the windshield of cars. In the modern urban world, police whistles and tickets are sure to startle and create some fear in our hearts. However, this fear was quickly relieved. No arrest was made among the jaywalkers, and that piece of paper that looked like a ticket turned out to be an ad for a hair growth medicine. Next, Delinsky and Narat asked jaywalkers and motorists to comply with a request, in some studies to complete a questionnaire, and in other studies to aid a charity. The results? When fear was aroused and then relieved, the jaywalkers and motorists were significantly more likely to comply with the request than those who jaywalked without a whistle or did not receive the quote-unquote ticket. Delinsky and Narat conclude that the arousal of fear and its subsequent relief distracts attention from evaluating the request, resulting in much more compliance. According to Pratkanis and Aronson, the fear appeal is most effective when, number 1, it scares the hell out of people. Number 2, it offers a specific recommendation for overcoming the fear-arousing threat. Number 3, the recommended action is perceived as effective for reducing the threat. And number 4, the message recipient believes that he or she can perform the recommended action. A few years ago, I received a phone call from a man who said he was from the North Lebanon Township Police Department. My stomach turned immediately as fear washed over me. My fear was relieved when the man chuckled and said, "Don't worry, you're not in trouble." The man went on to ask me to buy tickets to the policeman's ball. I said no thank you. He replied, "Police officers risk their lives every day. You want to support our dedicated officers, don't you?" The telemarketer gained instant credibility when he said he was from the police department. He also appealed to my fear by simply saying he's from the police department. He immediately relieved my fear by telling me not to worry, that I wasn't in trouble. This, as Delinsky and Narat demonstrated, made me immediately more compliant. When I said no, he used guilt to influence me by pointing out the ultimate sacrifice police officers make every day, the risking of their lives. I didn't buy any tickets, nor did I buy any tickets the 3 other times I received a similar plea, but I felt compelled to, and I'm sure they do quite well in their telemarketing techniques. It felt like a legal shakedown using fear and guilt that could be relieved with a simple purchase. Beware of the message that makes you feel more than think. I write stories that reflect the truth about government and our society. If you'd like to learn more and support my work, check out my books at the link below. Thank you.